CzarThwomp here, and welcome to episode 67 of the Greatest Attorney 2 Resolve. Last time, we did the one and only investigation portion in this case, and the final one in this game, in which basically Sherlock revealed that he has been essentially masterminding things from behind the scenes for the entirety of the last two games. Essentially, the reason why Kazuma was declared dead in the second case of the first Greatest Attorney game was because Sherlock wanted Kazuma to be sent back to Japan so that Ryunosuke could take his place in the hopes that basically Kazuma wouldn't be assassinated. Likewise, basically, Gregson, the reason why he was going to France was because Sherlock wanted to keep him safe and also probably to exploit him for more money from the Sherlock Holmes novels, as well as to get some foothold in France. Yeah, knowing Sherlock, he would want to take over France too. He wanted to take over all of mainland Europe as well. England wasn't enough for Sherlock, so basically he's going to take over Japan. He's going to take over mainland Europe in addition to England, and then he's going to use his telegram communications with Japan in order to take over Japan. The world will not be safe from Sherlock. Then before you know it, everyone's going to have to become a part of the Church of the Great Detective and pay Sherlock tribute money. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light on these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. And damn it, I'm not sitting down anymore. I'm standing. I'm asserting my dominance. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. I have a unicorn staff, so you have to follow my orders. Resolve, yes, that's my intention.
My lord, if I may inquire,
The defendant may speak.
on what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue in his role as a prosecutor? He has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. Granted, the man is in his Nipponese, but that's beyond the point. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. And mark my words, I will be, if you allow this to continue, when this trial is over and my learned Nipponese friend proves my innocence, I will write my second book on the Nipponese menace, and I will include this as an entire section. How our government has been corrupted from within by the Nipponese threat.
I submit a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day.
You did what?
In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma, whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory.
Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us?
As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request, mostly for my own amusement. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Yes, my lord. And then Fancy should shake his head.
You traitor.
In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing. Barack and Zieks. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. The preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Sogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Cicero Jigoku into the courtroom. At last then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. And my battery's low. Hooray! Witness, state your name and occupation for the court.
Ha! So it was you who issued this, was it?
Your Saponina? I did what was necessary.
Ha 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 ha! Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you take that tone with me, I must say.
The witness won't sure. His responses are pertinent to the questions asked.
My name is Shishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan.
16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation.
Ah, it was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty.
Judge Jigoku, I must ask.
Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places.
You acquitted me yourself. And now I'm a practicing defense lawyer.
Yes. And full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom. I see. But you're not a judge, you are nothing.
You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France.
Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase.
Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances?
Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say, I declined to comment.
What?
Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette.
Can't speak today.
But my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify.
Unrelated, you say? You're challenging me in my courtroom. Do I challenge you in your courtroom? Do I go over to your island and just go into your courtroom and say, I'm not testifying. I'm not testifying. I'm not testifying. Well, I will make you testify. You're going for a swim, Jigoku.
I appreciate that respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. But he's not my inspector. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that.
So you would run from all this?
I beg your pardon.
This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now.
A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right. And you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eye that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end too. Let's see your evidence then. What proof do you have that Chishiro Jigoku is involved in this case? Okay, I am kind of having a bit of a brain fart. Okay. Yeah, I believe it's going to be the watch handle. Take that! What on earth is that? This piece of evidence is a welcome present to the courts with compliments of the defense. You have a poor grasp of British court etiquette, counsel. That's the extent of your resolve. You disappoint me, Ryunosuke Naruto. I am having a brain fart. Ah!
Stand down, Mr. Naruto. This was a minor blow.
Having your best friend tell you he's disappointed in you really stings, though. But of course, we have evidence that ties Judge Jigoku to this case. Evidence showing a few key names. Oh, right, this one. I am apparently getting ahead of myself in terms of presenting things. Telegram. I am very sorry. I was jumping the gun. This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: Keisogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson.
You little! Where did you get that?
In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku.
Mr. Title sends his regards. He also sent several messages to the other members of the Why Can't I Get a Female Specimen subreddit.
What? How on earth did you?
What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. Keisogi and Ashin are the names of assassins. No! A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Jessie L. Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain.
Ashin and her victim, John J. Wilson,
and the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector Tobias Gregson.
Keisogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other.
What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku, what is this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you had accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Chishiru Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. You deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself?
Grumpy. I did get a good night's sleep last night. I did get my temper beat pillow, and I'm sad.
His silence only goes to prove his guilt.
There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Groose.
Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court.
Ha 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 ha! There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know.
It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of October 31st. Present your formal testimony now.
As you wish, my lord. It's true that Kazuma Sogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it. So clearly I can't be involved.
So you admit it then? As this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan.
A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here.
To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce someone into commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard.
Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. That's why I do it.
Pardon?
So he had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know.
What?
Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel?
Kazuma-sama.
Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain.
No. I'm not obliged to divulge that information.
As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassination exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case.
The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he had shot the victim, had been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it.
That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barack Van Zieks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute.
Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything.
Don't you drag me down with you, because I will take you down. I will deny it all. He threatened me. He yelled horrible things about me. He yelled horrible things about the Queen. I couldn't say no to him. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot, or the handsome mastermind on the British side who came up with it. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Okay. For this one, we just have to go to the fourth one, I believe. And all times. No, that is not true because we have the evacuation drill itinerary.
Objection.
Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard who wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st.
What? Where'd you get that?
It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquitted yesterday, if you were acquitted yesterday, if you remember.
Herlock.
Oh wait, what did that say? You were acquitted yesterday, if you remember.
Herlock Sholmes again?
According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Cruise were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts? And during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime. Ugh!
Objection.
A 20-minute window opportunity. That's an excellent find, Rinosuke, but it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin, unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true, well, counsel. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jigoku's cabin on the 31st of October? Telegram. Oh wait, it's this one. Small component. I was ahead of myself earlier, but I am now good. Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What's that? The crown of a pocket watch?
A pocket watch?
And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch was almost certainly broken in there. Ugh. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku.
Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you? You young murderer.
Objection!
Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible, at first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way.
I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year.
Sorry?
If I'd known that would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast.
I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony.
When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled.
Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume.
Yes, I do.
Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October.
Of course. As a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice, except when I want to obstruct justice. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked to the doors, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. Soon I soon took care of him with an iPhone C on throw, though he couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It was nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain, because his body was found in London.
Ibonsio?
A common judicial martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take.
So, Ryunosuke Naruto, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. Ah!
I've no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he did manage to pull the trigger.
Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Wow, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell.
Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord.
But if this testimony holds, Judge Jigoku will be deemed to have had no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that.
You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten.
In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruto. Events in the cabin. just want to press a few things.
Hold it!
I know what we want to do. I know where we have to go. Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson.
Yes. Though at the time I didn't know the man's name. All I knew was that he was some crazy guy yelling about his ladyship. He was just yelling at them. He's like, "Your ladyship! Your ladyship! Your ladyship!" And it was creepy. He was yelling about how she controlled the world. She controlled the police. No one was safe. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners.
By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose.
That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointed in my direction. But I've never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in my entire life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before.
Believe it or not, most of us haven't.
Anyways, there was no time to go for help of the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself.
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun, that was a very brave move, wasn't it?
Ha 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 ha! My Ippon COA is faster than a bullet, I can assure you.
And then Jigoku just rushes over to Ryunosuke and then just gives him a Shishiro takedown and then just tosses him down to the ground, just yeets him to the ground.
Want to see it again, Mr. Naruto?
But surely all that commotion caused the crewmen to come in, didn't it?
Yes, of course. He burst it immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip by him to make his escape.
The outstanding guard does it again.
Luckily, there aren't many situations I can get out of using a quick Ippon COA throw.
Hold it!
The crown snapped off and the glass covering of the face of the watch was cracked.
Preferable to the man's head being bowled off or his spine cracking, would you say?
Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place.
Absolutely not! All the watch proves is the power of my jujitsu, though.
Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in the cabin. Because there was obviously a bullet hole in the wall.
Ha 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 ha! What are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain because his body was found in London.
Hold it!
But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive.
Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, stripling.
What?
If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have gone back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at that same spot. It's a devil of a thing.
Well, then, obviously the culprit must have moved the body.
How exactly? Carrying a corpse of a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think?
Well, yes, that's true, but all passenger luggage is inspected when it's unloaded from arriving vessels. And I would like to think that the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. That skilled that idea then. But perhaps not. Miss Susato? We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the corporate had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative.
Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony, with your consent, of course, my lord.
I have no objection. State your amended testimony now.
Oh, yes, there is. Commemorative photo. Yeah, happy photograph. Oh, happy memories, happy memories. Meanwhile, Gregson's in the photo too with a case.
Objection.
There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Far from being impossible for you to do. The transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. We learned that when he first met we learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London.
Well, all those passport checks and luggage searches at the port took rather a lot of time. I must say, I'm very envious of your mistral status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you?
You know, all Gregson's down in that trunk.
Ah, I knew you were jealous. Ha 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 ha!
I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku? It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your very large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside.
Mr. Naruto, surely you're not suggesting...
I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. Order in the court. Darn it, I'm inheriting the judge voice now. I'm scheduled counsel that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside this trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku?
But inside his trunk, how horrifying!
And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street. Taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body.
I don't have to listen to this nonsense.
Dr. Gory, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged that there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages, and the SS Cruise is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku, however much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer.
Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour.
What are you talking about now?
Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you both laid firm foundations for that already.
Judge Jigoku, please stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond?
Respond? There's no need for me to respond, is there?
Why ever not?
Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical.
The actual scene of the crime? The prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barack Van Zieks shot the victim at point-blank range.
Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale.
I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling.
The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly? I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession.
Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you'd better explain yourself to the court, don't you?
The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts this claim. The red hairpiece! The fetus firecrackers! The trunk! No. Iris's look, yes, the Hairlock Holmes. The Hairlock Sholmes plushie.
Take that!
A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed?
Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. He could easily have adopted the fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
That's what it's called, the foetal position? I always thought it was the fetal position, like a fetus. I'm looking this up. I'm looking this up. Fetal. Yeah, it's fetal position. What the heck? What is it with these terms? Okay. Apparently it's also... Okay, apparently that's the British version of fetal. Okay, I can kind of understand just color and defense. I can understand those variations, but how does this even sound like fetal? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be sounding condescending or anything, but like...
Objection!
Okay, apparently this is the new confetti-o. How to say fetal position. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Jigoku, but it's your logic that's flawed.
What?
According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Oh! Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now.
You're suggesting?
The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out on the floor. From the inside of a large travel trunk.
No! You're quite right. That shape of the body, it looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space.
Judge Jigoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Ah!
Present my trunk? I refuse!
What? On what ground?
I don't want to present it! I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan! I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations! Do you know who I am? I'm the guy who will bash your house down with a big lemon!
In other words, Judge Jigoku, there's blood on your trunk. Blood on the trunk!
I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges that allow me to...
At this moment, you are not a government minister. You are a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are, or what your status outside this courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth.
Ugh. Ugh.
Order in the court. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it?
Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Sogi?
What?
Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense.
What? You?
Dear God, outrageous!
So it was you. You admit.
No, I admit to nothing more than what I said.
It's kind of weird doing an angry judge voice.
Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection.
What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean?
I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else.
You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man?
As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity, he had the motive, and frankly, he is perfectly liable to be blamed. And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life.
Oh!
That's right, who else could have been? It was you, Kazuma Sogi!
Damn it! The only capable judge in the entire world is going after me now. You! I never thought you'd stoop to this, Shishiro, Jigoku.
You've taken the words straight out of my mouth, Prosecutor Kazuma. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you would pin the crime on me, did you? Well, I will take you down.
Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question.
Yes, on an assassination mission, no less.
You wouldn't.
So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more.
I don't believe this. Counsel of the defense, what is your position now? The court awaits your response to this witness's assertions. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assassination was in fact Mr. Kazuma Sogi.
This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well, the defense is ready to respond to the accusation put forward by Judge Jigoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Sogi is impossible. Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claim that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process.
It is, no question.
Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Sogi to commit the crime.
What?
The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that the alleged demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Sogi's involvement? Okay, just want to check out. So this is the type of revolver that's standard issue for members of the judiciary then.
Yes, when I asked about whether records are kept out who they're issued to, I was told that for the past 5 years, they've been engraved with a unique serial number.
Oh, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing like that on this gun.
Which tells us that it must have been issued longer than it has.
Take that!
You're making the evidence weep here, Ryunosuke Naruto. Sorry? Every piece of evidence has a role to play in arriving at the truth. They're not playthings you can toss around the courtroom for entertainment.
Ah! Never mind the evidence. You're about to make me weep, Mr. Naruto.
Oh no, I can't upset Susato-san, or I'll end up being upset too. We know a member of the crew was on sentry duty outside the cabin, on the first class cabin early at all times. So as long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a shot without it being heard. And that very much narrows down when the crime could have been committed.
Okay,
Take that!
This itinerary for crew members for the SS Cruise, my lord. This is conclusive proof.
an itinerary? How does that prove anything?
Judge Jigoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. Plus, we conclude that the murder weapon is older than when Kazuma arrived in Japan. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk.
Oh!
Now, clearly the murder could only have been committed by someone who was on board the vessel at the time. The prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings, I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Sogi could possibly have carried out the killing.
Ah!
And also the gun. The gun is also valid.
No, absolutely not! I don't accept that at all!
What do you mean?
The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship. Just waiting for his chance to come back and fix them.
No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof.
No,
There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you get the court an honest answer as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as though the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Shishiru Jigoku?
It was that damn trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. Yeah, I was doomed already.
Yeah, I love how we get the first use of lawyer telekinesis in the series, the first recorded in the timeline.
It's over. My life is over. A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand.
And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement, because I was already on my way to Britain at the time in Kazuma's place.
And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that.
The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume.
That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart. And made arrangements from a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper.
What? The Reaper? But there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. Ah!
So, that means that the assassin exchange was... It was all planned by the Reaper.
I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart.
Though frankly, if you're going down, you might as well take him down with you.
Anyways, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. But it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and his own death.
Oh, how awful.
It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting.
For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock.
I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came round and went in for me with a reckless move. He started yelling something about how "Aha! You think that's enough for me? I there is worse from her ladyship. Her ladyship will not take me down. I will not lose my soul to her." I received the British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that.
So the revolver belongs to you, does it? Then the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Bruce, which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street.
The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side.
Then why not just throw it in the Thames, or just do something like that, you know? Just toss it somewhere else.
That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room.
And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police.
I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was not in London.
In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule.
Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back to his police identification.
Ah!
I decided the man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit, so I took the hackney carriage over there with the bodies in my trunk.
That must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then.
Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers.
Miss Venus, of course.
I conceived of the candle trick there and then, so I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot.
What sort of disguise?
A Mike mustache! For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case. I was like, oh, when in Rome? So I put that on, although I suspect I drew more attention to myself in that than I would have otherwise.
The hairpiece we found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the Redhead League investigation.
I only arrived in the room at around 4:45, so I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the noseboard, and set my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later.
So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into the trap.
Except at the last moment, I made a careless blunder.
What was that?
I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips.
Ah!
I did notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyways, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did.
I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty.
An exchange of assassins? What a foolhardy idea!
Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us.
Enough! I've already told you that I cannot say.
Even though, as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again.
What are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished.
Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. I can summon the flames from my podium. Since you're Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found. Can we summation examination him? And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Summation examination! Summation examination! Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt.
Oh, wonderful! Well done, Mr. Naruto.
Yes, thank you.
Is something wrong?
Well, we'll answer that in the next episode because I think now would be a good time to end things off. Anyways, I really appreciate that you stuck around to watch this episode. You're a great viewer, and I hope you come back for the next one. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you want. With that, I'll see you next time. Bye.